Welcome to the historic market town of Abbey St Edmunds in Suffolk. Once little more than a village, the town we see today has its roots in medieval times, when it grew to serve the great Abbey of St Edmund. Local people and visitors alike walk the grid pattern of medieval streets laid out by the abbey. Edmund, king of the East Angles, was killed by invading Danes in 870, after he refused to give up his religion, Christianity. He was made a saint and was brought here to be buried. The abbey, which housed his shrine, became an important centre of pilgrimage. The abbey itself now lies in ruins, a mass of broken stone surrounded by public gardens. It's difficult to imagine that this was once one of the largest and most powerful abbeys in Europe. Gates, like this one, are the only way in or out. The west front of the abbey church was one of the last parts to be finished. It was built towards the end of the 1100s by Abbot Samson, the most famous of all the abbots. We know a lot about life in the abbey at the time of the Abbot Samson because one of his monks, Brother Jocelyn of Breakland, kept a diary. The church has been built in the shape of a cross, with the head pointing east in the tradition of all churches. The end is rounded in a design called an apse. There was great rivalry between the abbots at Ely and Abbey St Edmunds, both of whom wanted to build the longest church. The pilgrims enter the abbey church through one of three great bronze doors made by Master Hugo, who was a monk and a scholar in the time of Abbot Samson. This church is the heart of the abbey and the centre of all life around it. As the pilgrims make their way through the nave, they pass the massive columns and rounded arches typical of the Norman style of architecture. Medieval churches were often painted inside, and the whole of this one would have been brightly coloured. In the choir stalls, the monks sing plain chant, hidden behind the screens so as not to be disturbed by the endless stream of pilgrims. As the pilgrims approach the altar, the colours become richer and brighter. This is the holiest part of the church. Behind the altar lies the end of every pilgrim's journey, the shrine of St Edmund. This is a great moment for any pilgrim. Within this shrine lies the body of St Edmund, who was shot full of arrows by the Danes for believing in God. Legend says his head was cut off and flung into some woods, where it was guarded by a wolf. As Edmund's followers searched for the head, they were led to the spot by the wolf crying, "Here, here!" They buried Edmund, and when the coffin was opened some years later, it was found that the head and the body had mysteriously fused back together, leaving only a thin red scar. The sign of a true saint indeed. Here we leave the pilgrims as they pray to St Edmund. Generous gifts are left by the pilgrims in the hope that he'll bestow his blessings upon them. Let's explore another part of the abbey, a part that only the monks are allowed to see, the cloisters. Here is where the monks spend much of their time away from the church, where they walk, meditate, study, or write beautiful illuminated manuscripts. This is where Brother Jocelyn would have written his chronicle. The abbey church is surrounded by many smaller buildings which form the abbey precinct. Many of these exist to cater for the needs of the monks who are not supposed to leave the abbey. These buildings include the dormitory, where the monks sleep, the refectory, where they eat, and the infirmary or hospital. The abbey tries to be as self-sufficient as possible in providing for the monks. The precinct includes the crankles or fish ponds, and the vineyards where grapes are grown for wine. The monks are supposed to be vegetarian. However, they are allowed to eat meat when at the infirmary or when dining with the abbot. The watermill grinds corn into flour to make bread for both the abbey and the town. The townspeople have to pay to use it. Not far away is the Hall of Pleas. This is the court of law for the entire area of West Suffolk, and the abbot is the judge. The great courtyard is normally a centre of activity. It's surrounded by buildings such as the granary, bakery, buttery, and stables. The Abbey Gate is the entrance for servants who live in the town, but come to the Abbey daily to work for the monks. It's also the secular entrance to the complex for anyone who has business with the Abbey, but is not a pilgrim. It has been the scene of fierce fighting between the monks and the townspeople. The worst of these riots was in 1327, when the townspeople, fed up with the way the Abbey controlled their lives and took their money in taxes, stormed the Abbey Gate. The gate was destroyed, the abbot kidnapped, and several monks murdered. The abbot made the townspeople rebuild the gateway and imposed a huge fine. Such was the power of the great Abbey of St Edmund at that time. Today, the great abbey lies in ruins. Henry VIII shut it down in 1539, along with all the other monasteries in the country. The abbey was taken apart by the townspeople, who used the stone to build houses for themselves, and so the abbey fell into ruin.